Well, hey, this is Rhonda Simmons, and I am the founder and CEO of the Simmons Empowerment Foundation, as well as Rhonda L. Simmons, LLC. And I am so super duper excited again. I'm just thrilled. Here we are in February 2024, and it's a new month, and we're moving on. And we just hit our 100th episode just the other day. And with that 100th episode, we started a new series. And that series is called The Heart of the Matter. And for the month of February, I'm highlighting people from two different categories. Because as you may know, here in America, thankfully, we have global listeners. Thank y'all. We appreciate it. But here in America, February is Black History Month, and February is also Heart Month. And so I wanted to talk to people from both of those categories and to really hone in on what we need to do for our heart health, as well as those Black women in our society who are making it and really making an impact and doing something great in our communities. And I wanted to make sure that we had the best of both worlds, because we're trying to uplift women on this podcast. We take a holistic approach to women's empowerment. So when I say that we offer messages of hope and conversations that heal and interviews that empower, I mean that. That's what you're going to find every single time you tune in to one of our podcast episodes. So make sure you bookmark us, like us, follow us, and also if you're also on social media, we are too. So make sure that you check us out on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. We're there at TSEFIORG. And if you're watching us on our YouTube channel by the same name, Empowered Heart to Heart, make sure you like, comment, and share this video, as well as subscribe so that you'll be notified every single time I post a video, because I'm telling you, I hit 2024 with both feet and I'm running. And for people that don't know me, Rhonda doesn't normally run, but let me tell you, this is the year to run and get it done. I know that just rhymed, and I'm not trying to be goofy, but this is the year to make stuff happen. And so tonight or today, whenever you're tuning in, I have a special guest, and I'm so excited to meet her because she has a special story. Tonight, I'll be interviewing a young lady by the name of Miss Alisha Bridges, and she's got a phenomenal story of overcoming. She falls into the category of celebrating Black women who are successful and impactful in their communities. Since Alisha was young, she's faced the challenge of severe plaque psoriasis. And for over a decade, her passion has driven her to advocate tirelessly for those navigating chronic illness. And she's been focusing on psoriasis and mental health. Wow, that's powerful to be able to have those conversations and make that impact. She was raised by her grandparents due to her parents' battles with drug addiction. And that brought on abandonment issues and compounded the challenges of living with a visible chronic condition. So that ignited her commitment to self-help, personal development and healing, childhood trauma. And she has been featured in Women's Health Magazine, WebMD, Medium, and more influential platforms. Wow. So I tell you, when I say I get the best of the best on this show, you've got to believe it. And so without any further ado, I'd love to introduce you to Miss Alisha Bridges. Hello, Alisha.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being on this show. And by the way, for those of you that are listening on the podcast and you don't have a visual of Miss Alisha, she is glowing. She looks beautiful.
Thank
So
you.
she does not look like she came through a childhood trauma such as she described. But as they say in church, I don't look like what I've been through. And so I'm real honored to have you on the show as well, Alisha. And so tell us, what was that like as a child, having, as you called it, a visible chronic illness?
It was very difficult. I was first diagnosed with psoriasis at 7 years old. And at that time, it covered about 90% of my body. And psoriasis is characterized by thick, itchy, dry patches of dead skin. And so I had to deal with that from 7 years old up until maybe 10 years ago, once I finally found effective treatment. But it was really difficult. You know, a lot of Black kids didn't have psoriasis that I knew of. A lot of kids my age had no idea what the condition was. It required me to confront it and share with not only my peers, but also adults. So it really did a number on my self esteem, how I felt about myself, my worthiness, my willingness to participate in different activities. It was really tough.
Wow, wow. And children can be cruel, and just, kids are dealing with bullying today, but were kids cruel to you back then as well?
Oh, most definitely. I definitely have had some very trying moments. I was actually just talking to a friend about this. I remember in high school where I was in class and I always tried to cover up with long pants and long sleeves. And so I was in class and my shirt lifted up. So one of my classmates seen my back and it had a lot of psoriasis on it. And I remember my classmates saying, "Ew, that's disgusting. What's on her back?" And I was very hurtful. And at that time, I did not know how to advocate or stand up for myself. Um, and, I also remember in the fifth grade trying to explain to kids what this was on my skin. And while some were kind, nice, compassionate, and accepting, there were some that were mean and nasty and had really mean things to say.
Wow, wow. And so you had to develop an inner strength before you even had a chance to enjoy childhood.
I
And
don't even think I built a strength. I think I just did what I had to do to get through those moments. I don't think the strength came until I was much older. I was just on cruise control a lot of times.
wow, that is a powerful metaphor right there. You also mentioned in your bio that while you were dealing with this, you were raised by your grandparents because of your parents' battles with drug addiction. You want to talk
Yeah,
about?
yeah, the 80s did a number on the Black community when it came to the crack epidemic. And a lot of people, adults of that time, didn't realize how detrimental crack was going to be. And so for many, it was a party drug. For others, it was a drug to escape. That's kind of what happened to my mom. She was depressed and she was dealing with some deep issues. And she started doing crack with a friend. Um, and so not far after that, my father too got involved in it. And so I was forced to live with my grandparents. And I lived with my mom on and off. She was a present mom when she could be, and she was a great mother when she wasn't using drugs, but it was very difficult. And so that's where a lot of my abandonment issues came from. And I really battled with feeling worthy. You have this visible condition all over your body on top of your parents not being involved as they should be. And so it was a really tough time.
Wow, wow, that's a lot. That's a lot to have handled, even as an adult.
Mhm.
So, how is your relationship with your parents now?
I love my mom. We have really grown through some of the issues and challenges that came about because of her addiction. My father, that is a interesting story. My father had been missing for about 10 years. And in 2021, I got a call from his sister, and she said, "We found your father. He's in a hospital dying of stage 4 lung cancer, and he doesn't have long to live." So, as you can imagine, this just turned my world upside down. But I really appreciate that moment because the 2 months that my dad lived, I was able to talk to him to learn more of his story and his journey. I was able to forgive him, and God allowed me to hold his hand as he transitioned to the other side. And I did that with love, compassion, forgiveness, because
Wow.
I understand now, being an adult, how hard life is. And just because you have kids doesn't mean that some light bulb switches on and you just become this amazing parent. So the challenges that I've had to face in adulthood and work through has allowed me to have so much love and compassion for my parents, because they truly did the best that they could. And even in the midst of all their drama, they still tried to protect me. My mom tells me all the time how she's so grateful that we have a relationship, because there's so many women that she now mentors in recovery where their kids do not talk to them because of the hurt and pain that they've been through. So, it wasn't perfect, but I'm grateful that I got to hold my father's hand as he transitioned to the other side with love and compassion. I'm happy that the resentment for my mother has gone away. And I'm grateful that she had parents who were willing and capable to take me in when she couldn't.
Wow. Wow. You have preached the whole sermon, Alicia, because so many times when it comes to trauma, you know, some people don't deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Other people deal with the trauma, but they compartmentalize the forgiveness piece. Like,
Yes.
let me get myself right, but forgiving you, that's not going to happen. How did you work through getting to that higher level where you could actually look your parents in the eye and with love and compassion, as you said, and forgive them? How did you work through that?
It took about 8 years of a lot of self work. It started with therapy. I worked with a therapist to understand how my childhood was impacting me in adulthood. So that was really helpful. I've done therapy for 8 years now. Another thing that really helped me was a codependency support group. I realized through therapy that due to my abandonment issues, I had some attachment issues, and attachment issues show up in how you manage relationships, whether it's romantic, family, or friendships. And I realized that I had a lot of codependency tendencies that I thought was love, or I thought was the right way to go about things. So I had to unpack a lot of those wrong ideals and views. But through the codependency support groups, at the clubhouse, they would have AA meetings and NA meetings. That's Alcohol Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. And this is for people who are addicted to drugs. And sometimes I would go sit in those meetings and I would hear those people's journeys and struggles with drugs and alcohol. And it created empathy and compassion with my parents, because as I heard these people talking and telling their deepest, darkest secrets and shame, I realized that my parents were probably struggling in the same way too, and that they had an entire life before I came about that impacted them. And just like I struggled and I was negatively impacted by some things that happened in my childhood, they were too. So it helped me to relate to them a little bit more. The other thing I would say is meditation has absolutely changed my life. I did a year straight of meditation. Out of 365 days, I probably missed maybe 10 days. And I meditated anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes, and just sitting in myself, getting uncomfortable, working through feelings, listening to my thoughts, being present changed my life. And this is definitely last but not least, God, having a relationship with somebody higher than yourself. I really focused on my relationship with God outside of religion, just getting to know God, having a lot of alone time. I would go hiking, I would go to the woods sometimes and pray and just talk to God and sit by myself. And so those things over the last 8 years have really helped me to have genuine love, compassion, and forgiveness for my parents. I can honestly say that because I had to let a lot go. I had to let a lot of resentment, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, um, fault. You know, I blamed them for how bad my dating life was because I knew these issues that I had, and the ability to pick a good loving partner was because of the abandonment that I felt through them. So I had to work through all of that, and I'm at a great place now.
Wow. Alicia, I know that we just met and my opinion does not matter, but I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
I really am, because a lot of people don't get to this level of healing.
Hmm.
And it's so important because we take our unhealed selves
Yes.
into new relationships thinking the relationship will heal us. And
Yes.
it only complicates things.
Yes.
And man, you have done the work, and that is so tremendous, so
Thank,
tremendous. Do
thank
you
you.
find that now, with all the work that you've done, that it has changed how you interact with people, whether if you have children or other relationships? Has it really impacted you moving forward?
Absolutely. I feel like a different person sometimes. I feel like the person I would have been had my parents been healthy, had I came from a two-parent household. I had to do a lot of work with my inner child who was hurt, and I had to reparent myself. Sometimes when my mind felt all crazy and I was having anxiety and I was having these negative thoughts, I had to sit with myself and almost talk to my inner self like it was a child. And so, in doing that, learning grace and compassion for myself, I've learned to give that to other people. It's a lot easier now. I'm not as sensitive as I used to be. I'm not as defensive. I've learned how to be better at conflict resolution. And I have a partner now who is wonderful. And anytime I look at him, I say, this is what you get when you do the work and you heal. This is the type of person that you get. And so, I think my healing, I think the people around me are a reflection of the healing and the work that I've done because I have some beautiful people in my life, and I'm really grateful for that. And it's even helped with my relationship with my family. Me and my mom gets on my nerves. We had the best conversation last week. We were on the phone about 90 minutes and we laughed the entire time. And it was the first time I felt like, wow, this is a mother-daughter relationship without all that resentment and heaviness and distrust. Like it just felt so loving and trusting. And we've been having some difficult conversations about the past, and she's always willing to combat and talk about it. She doesn't hide behind those issues. And I've grown to the point where I can be open and receive whatever it is that she tells me, even if it makes me feel uncomfortable. So it's really helped me in my relationships.
Wow, amazing, amazing. You know, my mind is already thinking, okay, May is coming up, Mother's Day. I've got to do a Mother's Day edition and get some mothers and daughters on the show. Oh
Mhm.
my goodness. So expect me to reach out to you again to
We would
meet
love
you.
that. We
Oh
would
my
love that.
goodness.
My mom, she's clean now. She has a nonprofit for women in recovery that she just started. She has her 50, is it 503C or 5C?
501c3.
Yes, she has that now. So we would love to do this and talk to you.
Oh man, that is fantastic. Not only that, you have recently written a book called Dig Deeper, a
Mhm.
21-week guide to self-discovery through plants.
Yes.
Now, I know you're going to tell us about this book, but I just have to ask, it's not a 21 day.
No.
What's up with the 21 weeks? What is there a story behind that?
So every week it's a weekly devotional, basically. And so the number 21 means personal growth, creativity, transformation. So I thought it was just the perfect number to have with the concept of the book. So the number 21 is a very spiritual number.
Okay. All righty. Love it. Love it. And for those on our podcast, I will put the link to the book because it's on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description around the podcast as well as in the description around the video because you need to get this book. Now, tell us about you said this is a self discovery through plants. So
Yes.
fill us in on that.
So a couple of years ago, I was volunteering at this camp and I would be gone for a week and I had this plant. It was um a lily, I believe. And I needed to water it while I was gone, but I didn't have anybody to water it. So I searched online and they had something called self-watering bulbs. This is where you put water in the bulb and you turn it upside down and put it in the soil. And as the plant dries out, the water is supposed to come out of the bulb into the plant so that it gets water. So this is something that I said, this will be great to use while I'm away at camp. Well, when I came back to the plant a week later, 7 days later, it looked like it was almost dead. The leaves were wilted really, really bad. Some of the leaves had turned brown, and I was just so discouraged because this plant was doing so good. So I had thought about throwing it out. I said, you know what, this is done. But I texted my coworkers at the time because they were really into plants, and I sent them a picture, and I said, hey, is there anything I can do to save this plant? And my coworker said, water it and just see what happens. Water it and it should be fine. So I watered that plant. And within 2 hours, it looked better then than when I left for camp. And so that moment taught me something very special about my parents. It used to be when I thought about my mom and her leaving me with my grandparents, I felt like she abandoned me. I felt like she chose drugs over me. But having that experience with that plant, I did everything that I could to make sure that plant would be all right while I was gone. But because of my lack of knowledge and experience, it still wasn't good enough. However, even though it looked bad, all I had to do was water it and cultivate it, and it came back better than it did when I left. So that moment helped me think about my mother. And she didn't leave me with my grandparents because she was abandoning me. She left me with my grandparents because she thought that was the best solution at the time while she was gone. And just like I thought it was the best solution and it didn't work out, she thought it was the best solution, it didn't work out, but it wasn't too late to save it. It's not too late to save that plant, and it wasn't too late for me to save myself. So after that, I started to look at plants in a totally different way. And I believe that God hides the keys to life in nature, but we get so busy, we're unable to really appreciate it. How is it that a plant could help me unpack years of trauma with my parents in an instant? And so, Dig Deeper, a 21-week guide to self discovery through plants, is about you unpacking your childhood trauma through learning the lessons of a plant. It's 21 weeks, and each week there's a different lesson that you'll learn about growth and cultivation in relation to your plant as well as yourself. You'll pick a plant the first week and you'll learn how to take care of it for 21 weeks while you also learn to take care of yourself. And I hope that as you learn your plant and the ups and downs and the effects of environment and tools and needs, that you start to learn all of those concepts and topics for your own self. And so that is where the concept of this book comes from.
Whew. Oh my goodness. Wow. Alicia, you are an amazing woman.
Thank you.
And you represent us well.
Thank you so much.
And you represent yourself well and your parents well.
Thank
And
you.
hats off to your grandparents as well. You
Thank you
know,
so
that they
much.
stepped up. They could have said, you know what, no, we're too old for this. But
Yep.
they didn't. They
Yep.
didn't. And so what an amazing journey you've been on. and the journey continues. You're just phenomenal,
Thank
just phenomenal. And let me just say this: I believe that this is not the last that we're going to hear from you. That you're going to be on stages talking about your journey and the healing process, and using your book as a catalyst to help other women and heal and overcome trauma,
thank
because accepting it and living with it, yes, it's an option, but they don't have to. They can get that closure if they're willing to do the work, and you've proven that.
Yes. Thank you. Thank
And
you.
I really appreciate you being on the show. And oh my goodness, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I see my goals are so hard for me, and it might be because I am a child of trauma. It's so often that I can't predict what's going on in the future because the right now is very important. But I see myself talking on stages. I see my book just helping heal people in so many ways imaginable. Um, I see myself just being on a huge platform, helping other women, other young men heal from their trauma. And it don't even necessarily have to be big, as long as I'm just helping somebody, whether it's my friends or the people I know or whatever. But I do see myself continuing this work and it growing to a place that I can't even imagine. And I'm excited and I'm ready for it.
I know you are. I know you are. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you go to Amazon and get Alicia's book, Dig Deeper, a 21-week guide to self-discovery through plants. It sounds like you will not be disappointed. Get the book. And so, Miss Alisha, thank you so much for being on the show with me today. I am just so honored that you took time out of your busy schedule to just come and talk to us and let us know what's going on in your world and the impact that you are making already in your community. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is great. I really appreciate you for trusting me and allowing me on your platform.
Thank you. Thank you. If you'll just hang out just for a minute, I'll wrap things up and get right back to you. Okay.
Okay, great.
Oh my goodness. That was phenomenal. Oh my goodness. What an amazing story, life history, journey. See, this is what Black history is all about. Black history is made up of people who had tenacity. It wasn't that our lives have been perfect. I mean, open up history books. Our history is full of pain, full of trauma, full of hardships, but out of the pain, trauma, and hardships have come some of the most resilient people in the history of mankind. And Miss Alisha Bridges is no exception. She has such a resilience about her. And I love the fact that she is just glowing with confidence, not in an arrogant pride, but confidence in knowing the work that she has allowed God to do in her and that she has participated in her own healing. So make sure that you just hit rewind and play this episode all over again, because this is worth listening or watching again. So until the next time, be blessed, be encouraged, but most of all, be empowered. And I'll see you on the next edition of Empowered Heart to Heart.